Hi, everyone. Welcome to Zita's Healthy Beginnings World of Women podcast. This evening, we have the pleasure of having in our midst one of our friends, Jane Castro, who is really well accomplished woman. And she is going to talk to us this evening about who she is and what she does and how she has really impacted life through her work. And I am so excited to have her in our midst. And she has a great bio, and I will really let her talk more about it, especially what she's doing with young women and kids and families. So thank you so much, Jean, for joining us. And please, over to you. Introduce yourself and tell us, what you do and how you really got to this stage right now. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Zita. I was in the financial industry for 23 plus years. And as a financial advisor, I made millions of dollars in sales for my company. But somewhere along the line, I was scared to listen to my inner voice and, hear what my inner voice was saying. Fast forward a few years later and a few bumps later, I finally said, yes, okay, I need to listen to the inner voice. And then I started focusing more strongly on relationships, on leading women, children, heart-oriented business owners into what truly matters to them and how they can make the difference by listening to who they are, how they are wired. As soon as you change, I discovered that as soon as you change your feelings about some things, you start changing the outcomes about, some things. And to that extent, I'm here to present on family stress to best because I do believe women are the center of our tribe, and we actually teach our tribe what caring and sharing is all about. So this message would help them change certain understanding and expectations. And this is one of the things I do through Change Your Outcomes, is to help people understand relationships better and really, really to speak in a way that motivates people and helps them get inspired to do more. Hopefully that answers it, Zita. Were you able to hear, Zita?
Yes, thank you so much for that information. And for how long have you been doing this? And with who are your customers, your typical customers, and that how has that really touched you as a person, and also in your community or in your circle?
I've always been a relationship oriented person from the time I was in my teens. But I actually formalized it through the education with the John Maxwell Leadership Company, where I'm an executive program leader. Because I really felt if I wanted to impact people, I wanted to do it in a structured, I wanted to learn the structured way, do it in a structured way to train, coach, and facilitate. And I started the journey in 2016. And clients often say that, oh my God, I wish I knew this before, or I didn't know this. Or the ahas that they see just because it brought a shift in the changed their outcomes for them. I recently, just 2 weeks ago, had a client who said, now I understand that people who relate to me are not trying to be hard. They're just wired that way. So now that I understand them, I can change the way I communicate with them. So there you go.
Okay, so we all understand how hard relationship can be, and especially in family setting. And when we really find it difficult to know who we are And it becomes a challenge, really, to relate with other people. And people like you have the skills, and they have the, willingness and the openness to really talk to other people, invite them to self-awareness, to work with themselves, to work with experts, to help them to really get in touch with themselves, get in touch with other family members or people in their circle. And we know that that really takes time. And we also know that there are people in their family, that was not, for some reason, they missed that. So how do you really tackle individuals that come to you? They have that willingness to interact, they have the willingness for self-development, but they don't know how to go about it. So how do you really help them? As well as, bearing in mind what their shortcomings are. How does that work?
So one of the ways I help people is through their DISC report. Now, the presentation I'm doing today is a snapshot of our personalities. But for those people who are interested, I do a more in-depth, like a 36-page report that tells them about, what are their strengths? What kind of languaging do they respond to? What are their motivators? And often when they look at that, they're like, yes, that's the way I am. That's the way I like it when people talk to me like that. And in that, I also cover with them what are their challenges, what are their blind spots. Bear in mind, this is all verifiable and researched information right from 1920s, right? Once they see this and they're able to see their strengths, then we discuss the fact that they don't have to overcome their weakness. They don't have to be the best in the weakness. They just have to manage their weakness in such a way that it doesn't stop them from their growth. They just have to neutralize their weakness, manage it in such a way that it is not, their weakness is not a stumbling block for their growth. Once they get that, then they put a few action points in place that will help them grow faster in the ways they are naturally wired. So if they like to talk and engage people, then you want to look out for opportunities where they'll continue to shine in that way. As people who like to talk and engage people, sometimes they might not be great at making schedules and doing the nitty-gritty work. So then we teach them, you know what, better to team up. If you know this is going to be your weakness, it's going to slow your progress down. It's better to team up with somebody who's gifted at that. That way you can team tag and move faster, because you'll never master what you're not blessed with, right? So let's understand that quickly, understand what your strengths are. And for those things that are not your strengths, let's look at ways that we can neutralize them. And sometimes one of the tips I give them is team tagging with, another accountability partner in that area. So that's one of the ways I handle it when people come to me to say, I want to grow further. I want to understand myself and make sure I balance my strengths and my weakness. I hope that answers that, Zita.
Yes, it does. It does, absolutely. And I'm glad that you have that, because, in a fast-paced environment right now, a lot of people have the willingness to do a whole lot of stuff, including to improve themselves. But because of where we are and what we're doing, which is too much at sometimes, and you can't even stop to take a breath, catch your breath, so it becomes a challenge. And when it comes to family, taking care of, kids and juggling everything, it is even more challenging. So you want to talk a little bit about the photo you have here, and talk to us more about it. And yeah.
Awesome. This photograph is the start of our presentation about managing families and moving from a stress point wherein you say, oh my God, my teens, I don't know how to relate to them. They give one word answers. Or this child likes to talk all the time, but it's not getting work done. So sometimes, or they give me pushback. So sometimes we're dealing with all this and we cannot seem to go ahead. And then what you do is you experience a stressful situation at home. And here are the tips wherein I will show you 4 different styles in the presentation of how each child could be. And you will then see, oh my God, now I know that when a child is behaving this way, possibly this is the way they are wired. And you know what? Possibly this is the way I can relate back to them. So it doesn't become a stumbling block and a head-on, head-to-head banging, but we actually move ahead with our communication. I'm able to shore them up and, we have a happy communication relationship. Relationship is always a building point. It never is like one fine day unless you get along extremely well with a person. But many relationships are cultivated. So it helps us to cultivate it in the right direction instead of always feeling, why don't these people get me? Or why don't I get them? So this is a great starting point.
For I know for our mothers, especially most of them now that are raising single moms, raising families, it becomes even more challenging to get their kids to understand how they think. And not that a woman is actually expecting her baby to understand her. It should be the contrary, actually. But due to stress and other stuff, they are not really able to handle it. So now when you guys do, is there anything like family, do you get into like family counseling or do something in that realm where you are looking at the whole picture holistically, taking care of the child, taking care of the mom and the dad, and trying to really make them, whole by really taking them apart, if you know what I mean. Dealing with the problems individually, so to speak, and then collectively letting them let each party understand what's going on, talking to the kids in the language they can understand if it's possible, but more so like dealing with parents and having them really understand what is going on, and sometimes to get it that it isn't really the kid's fault. Is there any programs like that you also have that helps?
Yes, Zita, we do have a program that helps them in that way. What we do is we actually do the mom's report, so the mom knows how she's wired, because remember, often opposites attract in a relationship. Then we do the partner's report, the other partner's report, so they know how they are wired, when do they tend to butt heads, when they tend to be more demanding, to recognize the stress signals in each, of the partners. So to know when to be sort of demanding, when to let go, when your partner is going through stress. And then also when you understand your children's wiring in the same way, there are simpler reports for children. You know that, like for me, for example, I'm wired in a certain way, but my 2 sons, I've got 3 kids, are wired in a slightly different way. So I like to be engaging and talking. For my 2 sons, if they push them on stage, they're like, no, mom, don't do that. Like, don't do that. We don't like it. And it took me a long time to understand that I have to get okay with the fact that they're not comfortable being in front of people. They don't have the same joy. And of course, when I did the program like this, I was like, oh my God, no wonder. They're more the quieter kinds, and you will see that in the presentation. And I was actually sharing the other day. Now it makes sense. I said, why teachers would always say, your kids have to speak out more because they're wired in a particular way wherein they prefer to take in and understand first before reacting. And so they tend to seem like they're quieter, but on the other side, they just tend to be more compliant, more little correct, which is fine. Now that I understand them, I'm able to give that space. So automatically it lessens the stress. The other tip I'll share with you was when I learned my daughter, that was about 5 years ago, I did a similar test and I found that she was completely outgoing. I'm not like that, and neither are my boys like that. So I had to change the way I think in terms of setting challenges for her and inspiring her. I had to speak a new language because that wasn't the way I brought up my boys. So now that I understood how motivators were different, I was able to change my languaging. So she now understands me as a friend instead of me butting heads with her all the time. So we do have a family, sort of an approach like that, wherein we help each of them understand what their giftedness is in terms of communication, in terms of motivation. And now that they know and understand themselves, how can they communicate with the others who are wired differently? The background of all this is the DISC personality. The DISC is the acronym for, you could be dominant, you could have an influencing personality, you could have a steady and supportive personality, and then you could have a more compliant and correct personality. Now, this doesn't mean that we box each child or each parent or mother in one of these. But what we help them understand is each of them has a particular leaning towards one style of operation, and the other styles could be a little lesser. So once you understand how typically somebody would react in a circumstance, you made peace with it because you suddenly know that's the way they're wired. They will always react that way. Like I'm a hugger, I will always hug people, especially my kids, and explain to them, look, mom is like that. I am the steady, supportive kind, and I need to feel that relationship. If I don't feel that relationship, I'll feel there's something wrong that we've not communicated with each other, right? So I help them understand, and they're okay with it. So that is the approach we take when we help families together. Just by them understanding, it breaks down the tension because now they realize that the other person is not being difficult. They're just trying to understand. They might either ask questions, they're nervous, and then you'll suddenly find them talking too much because for some people, when they're stressed, they suddenly tend to talk too much, right? Or some people, when they're stressed, they will try to control the situation. So they'll be more dominating because they fear loss of control. So as soon as they understand these, they're able to come at peace with themselves, with what's happening in the home. And then there is an action plan. We give them an action plan to say, okay, now that you know this, what's going to change? What area do you want to grow in that? Family, communication, and what little goals you'd like to have in the next 2 to 3 months. That's one of the ways we do it.
Okay, so I understand then it becomes an ongoing thing because we all keep growing. It's not just something we take care of in a month or two and we're like, oh yeah, we're done. When you were talking there, it reminded me of when I was in the novitiate. We were being, trained to live with other people, other women in the community and international for that matter. And so one has to learn oneself, know the kind of personality one displays and what really works and what doesn't work if you're living in a community with other people. And I must say that it was an interesting thing, that we all did. On the other hand, it became a challenge for those of us who came because culture plays into this whole thing as well. There are people who feel that I am who I am, you cannot change me. And if you try to do that, it becomes a huge problem for them. But there are others who are really flexible with it, who are willing to grow and stuff like that. Have you really encountered people like who would say, leave me alone. I think the way I am is good for me. I don't want to change. Have you ever had, people like that?
Not people who come to me, because people who come to me realize that there is a gap that they need to close. And often when they realize the gap, it's come from a painful session, either a painful session at career or painful session in a family wherein, they've tried a few things and because of past history, that lack of faith is there. So now they want to make changes and now they want a more structured way. But in this program, one of the things we do is we do not try to tell people you got to change. We just help them understand who they are. And from that space of, okay, this is who I am, this is the way I'm wired, this is the way I think. As soon as they see that, we also insert in the program the different personalities. It's not you, no man's an island. And they're able to see through that, oh, you know what? Yes, my eldest son displays this quality, or my colleague at work is like that. As soon as they're able to see that and the fact that those people will never be like me, but they're important enough to me that, I want that relationship to work, then they start imbibing a few of those tips to make life easier for them.
Wow, that's really awesome. Yeah, that is true that you don't really tell people you have to change. When people realize, who they are, like you said, that is indirect change because then they're like, oh my goodness, I got it. This is what, who I am and how I should be. But, it becomes clearer. And that is very important. And I like what you're doing because it not only takes care of the family, it focuses on the individual. And until we build ourselves in a way that we can be compatible with other people in relationships and in other building even the community and building the world, if we don't take care of ourselves first, understand who we are, we won't even be in the position to, live with anybody or achieve anybody or work together with anybody. So here now we have our audience who are here listening. I would like them, if you have any questions for Jean, please unmute and ask your questions or comments, because this is really focusing on individuals, who we are, and what we do and how we want to really be the best of ourselves. So unmute and meet yourselves. Yeah, Hannah.
Oh, hello.
Hi.
Hi. I don't have anything at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I thought you were, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine, Hannah, that's fine. Yeah, so sometimes I have, like I said, I have gone through this kind of trainings, and and I was really thinking, yes, I'm glad you said that. If you can do the presentation, please go ahead and present so we can, learn more.
Awesome. So today what I'm going to do is, Zita, thanks for that. I know we have an audience of heart-centered women, and this presentation today is going to talk about how we connect to our child's giftedness. But I'll be honest with you, whenever I've done this presentation, even adults have come back saying, oh, I recognize this in my sibling or my spouse or my partner, So feel free to take it as you see, yourself. We went through this before, but I am a people person, and that's why I talk about relationships. I believe each of us is unique. I'm a loving wife and a lucky mother. At least I hope my children and my husband say so. And of course, I have the Maxwell Leadership Program behind me, and this presentation is part of that. Now, often when we look at others, other families, we think everybody has got it together. No, everybody's happy, everybody's joyful. There you go. Everybody seems to have got it together. And then when we look at our house, ourselves, we magnify a problem and I think, oh my God, I'm running between pillar and post. This one, I'm trying to this one, I'm trying to be the perfect mother, perfect baker, perfect wife, have a schedule, have a business, and you're all over the place, right? So the important thing is to know that you're not alone and things don't have to be so scary. Once you understand that in your immediate tribe, in your immediate family, even as a toddler, as children are growing up, once you understand that they have their own, sorry, I'm just going to move my screen. Once you understand that they each have their own giftedness and personality style, you get the tools to communicate with them in ways that they understand and respond positively to you. So you don't have to feel like you're all alone and that you have to deal with everybody in your immediate surrounding and feel victimized. No, these are tools that's going to help you to be more stronger and positive and show up as a leader in your communication. Now, do you have a child who seems to be a born leader, right? They're dynamic, they make decisions fast, they're goal-oriented, they seek solutions. They sort of have an activated tendency. Okay, let's do it, sort of. They like to lead and organize. And this child, you can throw anything at them and they will excel in emergencies, right? Now, that's great that this child is gifted. But if you recognize that you have a child or a person in your immediate vicinity like that, here are sometimes where you might get some, difficulty from them in terms of relationship, when they seem resistant, when they seem like they're very strong-willed, like, oh my God, this person has made up my mind, I can't get him to change or get her to change. They seem to be rebellious, angry, like, they come across as angry and you're thinking, what did I do? Like, what have I done wrong? Sometimes they seem to be demanding or controlling. If you notice this in this child, then that's your indicator that for some reason this child is under stress. Could be peer pressure, could be in the family, could be the family situation. And often when they don't know what's happening for this child who's gifted in this way, often when they become demanding and controlling, they're trying to have a control on the situation where they feel like, I don't know what's happening. So if you see this, they're not just trying to be difficult. They're wired that way. They're trying to gain understanding and control of something. I see Hannah nodding. Of something where they don't understand. So just understand it's a stress signal. They're not being difficult towards you. Now, how, if you've identified such a child, how can you motivate them, right? This child is a natural leader. Give them an opportunity to be in charge. Say, hey, I need to load the car. Can you help me pack it up properly? Can you tell the others what to do? Or can you drop a timetable for us, right? Give them an opportunity to be in charge and control of something. Like, for example, when my husband, who's also, a DJ and plays for parties, when he goes, he takes my eldest son, who seems to be wired this way, and gets him to, sort of load the car, put up the wires, do the things together. And my son feels like he's in control, he's in charge. So always look for opportunities in your household. When you feel you have a child wired that way, give them the leadership. Give them the leadership in the small thing and say, here you go, right? And then they will feel engaged and they will feel like they have the control on the situation. And you can uplift them by this messaging, right? Say that, I like that you're confident in yourself. I like how you set your mind to do something and go after it. So when you use this languaging, when you compliment them, it uplifts them. And they feel like, yes, my mom understands me, my parent understands me, right? And then they feel like, oh, I want to do something more, right? And you tell them, I like how you're committed and decisive. So now that we've seen this child, we will go on to the next one. Now, one of your child, see if you can identify this. They're outgoing, right? They volunteer for jobs easily. They make friends easily. They're emotional. They're not scared to tell you how they feel, right? If they like or don't like something. They can be very inspirational. They're fired up with an idea and they get everybody else fired up with it as well. They have high energy until the time they drop dead in bed. They're like, oh, let's do this. Let's do this. I'm like, you just rest. It's 8 o'clock. Don't you wind down? They're having creative ideas all the time. And they like to talk, right? So if you notice one of your child has this kind of leaning, that's your outgoing child, right? It's wonderful to have these, but like all of us, we go through stress when we do not understand, when we have peer pressures, when we have school. When will you notice that they're getting stressed? When they're suddenly becoming too active, they come across patients. Sometimes they're nice, but then sometimes you notice they get louder. Like when they do not understand or trying to control something, they get louder. You'll notice that they're always seeking attention, sometimes negative attention. When they feel stress, and one of their qualities The reason they talk and they chat is because they want people to like them. That's how they're wired. They're born to be engagers. They are born to be influencers. So when they feel that people might not approve or engage or like them, then they'll start talking more because that's their way to get influence in a situation. So to them talking more loud, seeking attention, and even negative attention, and huge emotional displays, up and down, up and down. Oh my God, if you're there, you feel like, I need a break. But if you notice that, this child having this kind of behavior is not that they're being dramatic or being difficult. They want to have influence. If you've seen here, they're outgoing, they love making friends because they like that influencing aspect of friendship. And when they feel that that's not there in a class, among their peers, the stress might show up in this sort of behavior. Once again, as soon as you know them, you can see what is causing the stress, but how to motivate them, right? Give them an opportunity, socialize and talk. Ask them, how was your day? What happened, right? Give them an opportunity to come back. Don't cut them short when they want to share with you, because that's the way they process, right? When you give them an opportunity to socialize, then they feel like they're being themselves. The funny thing is, for these kind of children, one of the greatest pains will be if you take away their opportunity to socialize. If you tell them, no, you cannot go for that extracurricular activity, their face will become so small. They're like, no, I want to go. Then do your chores first, right? Because this child loves to engage and to talk and be with friends. And then you want to shore that up. You want to say, no, I like that you're fun to be with, because that is fun. When my daughter was about 6 years old, I remember I was telling her to do some homework or learn something. And she's like, Mom, that's not fun. I'm like, I was thinking in my mind at that time, who tell me life is fun? But of course, I learned her personality later, and these people will gravitate to what is fun. So shore them up, saying, I like that you're a friendly person. I like your enthusiasm. That's contagious. Because this behavior has meaning for them. They're wired that way. They understand what it's just to influence, and they thrive on that, right? Now, your next child, you probably notice this giftedness. Now, some of your children might be very easygoing, right? Real blessings. They're well-balanced, quiet, but they can be witty at times. They're often agreeable. They're like the Miss Nice or Mr. Nice around. They're good listeners. They often help and they look out for others. You'll find that they're consistent. When they take up a routine, they're consistent. They will do it this way, this way, this way, this way, this way. They're often reliable and dependable. When you tell them something, they'll take a little time to understand, but after that, they will keep doing it consistently. You can depend on them to finish that task, right? They're like little leaders. They take a little time to develop, but after that, they consistently tend to be reliable. Now, this child of yours loves to be steady, loves to be, part of a team, loves to be easygoing. So there's general agreement. They thrive on that. They hate disharmony. They hate discontent. They hate quarrels, confrontations. They're like, can we just all agree to disagree in a nice way, right? And this is that child's juice. So you can't force them to like confrontation because they're not wired that way. So if you notice somebody like that, they really, really thrive on a peaceful atmosphere, right? And you'll notice that when they're stressed, like there's too much of change happening, sudden change happening all the time, you'll notice they're submissive because they're trying to grapple with the situation, or they're stubborn. Like depending on how they feel like a threat to their security. Who I am, this is my environment, I don't know what's happening. When they feel like this, they will be stubborn. This easygoing child, you'll feel, oh my God, this child is giving pushback. I mean, this child doesn't give pushback normally. What's happening? So they're either too submissive because they want to agree and then move on, and they're stressed, they don't know what's happening, or they're stubborn, like too many changes happening too fast, they disassociate. They're stubborn, they're like, oh, what's happening, right? If you notice this happening to your easygoing child, understand that there are some changes happening too fast and the child is trying to grapple. So go slow. Take time to, bring them up to speed with the situation and tell them how much you depend on them, right? So this kind of child, also the stress signal is if they find that they are not, having a good control on the situation, you will find that they tend to reach out for relationships that are usually stronger than them. And often, because they hate confrontation, they will go out of their way to keep the peace, right? So when you notice this, then okay, my child or this child is going through some stress, right? They're trying to have an understanding of the situation, trying to bring it to peace because the situation is not at peace. And for this child, if a situation is not at peace, it's stressful for them. Now, how would you relate to their giftedness? Because often, to be a good team player, to be an easygoing person that brings harmony in the family life, in the situation, is a giftedness. You really, really thrive on people like that in your team, in your groups, and your family. And one of the best ways to motivate them is to emphasize that you need their help. Give them an additional boost of confidence by ensuring that they have what they need to succeed. So if you've given them tasks, tell them, look, I know I've given you this, but you need these tools. I've asked you to bake a cake, but here's the flour, here's where everything is. I'm sure you'll do a good job. And of course, they will step up to the expectation. Tell them how much, I'm going out, but I'm really, really thankful that you can put the pasta to boil. Like that'll help me, give me a head start. So soft, encouraging words like that and telling them how much what they do helps you is just the juice that this child needs. This child doesn't need anything else. They just need the shoring of confidence, and then what we do matters to the team, to the group. They are usually shy. They're not usually in the spotlight often, but they really, really want to know that what they do matters to the team, matters to the family, matters to mommy, matters to their class, their peers, their team, right, at school. And again, I've already shared the languaging. When you tell them, I like that you're a caring person. I like that you care. And they care. Often they don't want the spotlight. They don't want confrontation. They genuinely want harmony. So when you tell them, they feel good inside. They're like, I like that you're a caring person. I like that you try and get along well with us. I like that you're compassionate, because that is their giftedness. Now, these qualities, you cannot, like I said, you just, your child either has it or not, right? You cannot develop these qualities. They often have it inborn. So when you have it, definitely encourage them and show them. And for all of you listening patiently, we're almost to the end. So here's your last child. So this child could be, one of your children could be very analytical and logical. Usually they're organized about their space. They're creative. They tend to be creative. We'll think of creative solutions in the neat and logical way. They're usually conscientious. In their little things that they do, they're very methodical. They seek perfection. They want to do a good job. They're detail oriented. They will look into the details, and sometimes they look into the details too much, but that's the way they're wired. If you get work from the child, you know that it will be thought out thoroughly. These guys tend to be deep thinkers. And because they tend to be deep thinkers and, detail oriented, they easily see problems or errors. They're just wired that way. Now, the first three might or might not see, but this child will see, right? What do you do? When this child, because of their deep thinking, methodical ways, when stressed, how do they behave? And the stress is sometimes when they don't know, things are moving too fast. They tend to be overly cautious because they're deep thinkers. They want to make a good decision. So you notice these children, they won't sometimes react fast like the other kids. They want to be overly cautious. They will take time to decide. They will be critical because they don't like when others criticize them. So they're often critical of their own thinking and their own process. They tend to be pessimistic, not because they're pessimistically wired, because they also tend to see the problems first, right? Because of their detail-orientedness, they also tend to pinpoint the problems that comes naturally to them. So they may be slightly pessimistically wired. Now, when I say pessimistic, this in contrast to the second profile that I shared, where the person was outgoing, optimistic, different styles. Often when they do not have control, because they look at mostly data, logical, if they don't have control, the tendency to blame the situation or blame others is there, because whatever they know, they have tried to find out, right? And they've tried to analyze and come to a decision. So sometimes They feel they have no control of the situation, and they blame others if they feel that they do not have the right data set, the right information. And you'll find them being very technical, like A is A, B is B. And if you just sort of talk about a gray shade area, they're like, I don't know what it means, right? So this child would be, if you find them being overly cautious, taking time to make a decision, it could be that they are in a new environment, or they're being asked to make a decision and they like to take their time and think it thoroughly, when they make the decision. So it's okay, give them that space, right? The way you'd motivate this child is, don't rush them because they hate being rushed. But if you feel that they are the thinkers, give them the time to research, give them the time to analyze, give them time to ask questions. When this child asks questions, they're not poking holes. They're trying to understand it because their mind is like that. Their mind is analytical and data oriented. So they'll ask questions to plug in that brain. So give them that information, and connect to their giftedness. I like how you always try to do your best because they're wired that way as children. In the little they do, we tend to be very methodical. You like the work that they give to you. So always say, I like how you try to do your best. I like that you like things organized. And these guys are listeners, again, because they hate making hasty decisions. They will not only listen to data, but also listen to what people say so they make the right conclusion. Remember, these are the children who will ask you questions. So I like that you listen to what others say and feel. So this, my friends, is your 4 steps for the 4 different profiles that you may encounter. Now, remember, there is no child that has only one profile. Everybody is a mix of all 4, but you will see that each child has, a higher leaning towards one profile and smaller leanings towards others. So this, you have the languaging to understand them and then to motivate them. And also when you feel that pushback, you understand that, look, they're not being difficult. They're going through a situation where it's new for them. They don't understand. So as a mom, it opens your eyes to, okay, what are they experiencing? What are they going through? What is the new that they're trying to grapple? And that gives you the opportunity to come up with some more tips and solutions. So I hope that helps, Zita. I'm going to give the platform over to you.
Thank you so much, Jean. That was really awesome. And I am so confident that our moms out there are really happy with this presentation, because guess what? It says a whole lot about personalities, not only, like you said earlier, not only for kids, but also for ourselves, as adults. And having some of this information is like an expo. So at least, when you're a kid, it's kind of being dominant in one area, that you understand what is going on and then provide them the right support, which will help them to grow happily and healthier, as a family. And also they will find their food actually in this society, because not knowing who you are is really dangerous, because then one does not know how to relate with other people, and you might spend the rest of your life blaming others and not knowing that it is just me, not really knowing who I am. And this is very important this day and age, when we mix with, the world is becoming a global village. We see people all over, we interact with people. So really knowing oneself is key to building a healthy relationship. So I appreciate you coming to a podcast. And please, does anyone have any questions for Jean?
Oh, hi, Jean.
Yes, Hannah, go ahead.
Excellent. And I'm familiar with Maxwell Leadership.
Awesome. Great.
Great. It's a great program. I was brought up very protected. I couldn't think for myself. Whatever my mother did, I had to do. I was brought up very controlling, and eventually I found my voice. took a long time, but I found my voice. And my children, I would never bring them up in a controlled way.
Mhm.
But you know, my first one, my son was very he was difficult. You know, I never knew where he was, but once he found his music, he's a musician and a teacher. Once he found that, he was like a different person.
That's
My daughter was very good. I had no problems. But you know, as they grow up, I realized, and what you were saying really made an impact on me, because you know, my daughter needs balance, and she's a guidance counselor. But I know, and I do you believe in birth signs?
I did them when I was very small. I mean, as a child, it was more of a fun thing. Yes.
But I kind of look at that. Now, my daughter is a Libra, but I know she needs the balance. I realize more and more. My son is an Aries, and he has the creativity. And so I've discovered that your presentation was excellent. Thank you so much.
I'm glad you liked it, Hannah. I thank you for Zita, Emily, and Kurt team for having me give this to y'all.
Thank you so much. This is yes, this is precious. This is precious. And yeah, Emily, you have some comment?
I thought it was very good. Yeah, thank you, Jean, for coming. Yes, that was. Gary, do you have
Thank you,
anything?
Emily. Thank you, Emily, for having me and helping me understand what World of Women is all about, so we could put this together.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can come in here. A question I have, Jean, is you've given us a good tour, and with you presenting, you were able to bring us through step by step and kind of build the points together. In terms of going back and now
Good. I'm sorry.
You're
applying,
cutting.
we want to put this, if we want to put this to practice in our lives, like, how do we stay in touch with you? How can we use a website? What do we have to help us put this to practice?
Awesome. What I'm going to do is put in my, I'm going to put 4 things. One is my my email address. One is a call with me. One is for anybody who wants to take this in a verifiable way forward. I'm actually running a workshop on the 27th. It's a paid workshop with your whole DISC profile report. So for those of you who think, you know, really use this in your family, in your career, if you're entrepreneurs, then I'll put the link to that as well. And the 4th link I'll put to is, now as a mom, as a balanced person, by the way, I'm a Libra too. You know, I believe that we really need to have, you know, as a mom especially, we need to have sort of a balance in a day, an alignment in our day, to help us to stay tuned as a parent to what's happening in the household, in the family, amongst our kids. You know, the changing dynamics as situations change every few, you know. So I do believe in certain steps, like, you know, just taking a step back and sort of bringing some sort of alignment to your day in terms of meditation, visioning. That's what I believe in, that I represent Change Your Outcomes. So that's what I teach in Change Your Outcomes as well. So Kurt, thank you for asking. I'll put these 4 links. One is if you just want to chat with me, that's great. If you want to email me a question, so that'll be there. If you want to take the workshop further, that'll be there. And if you just want tips on how to balance your day, just to have that alignment so you're ready for inspiration. Because like I said, when we change our feelings about a situation, we change our outcomes. This is one way of changing feelings, by understanding the dynamics. But the other tips that I put in it'll be a free handout. So that'll help you just sort of stay tuned into your day and continue to change what you expect in the day. Would that work, Kurt? I'll just put those links.
Yeah, that'll
Yeah.
work. That'll work
Yeah,
great.
thank
Thanks for all the
you.
resources.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I
so everyone, Jeannie's gonna put her contact, and please get hold of her however you feel comfortable and take advantage of this. This is really like excellent presentation, and Jean has that expertise. Reach out to her and she will be able to help you. And I'm hoping that our moms who were not able to join us will equally get access to this World of Women podcast, and get information, listen to the replay, and also take advantage of it, because this is really helpful for ourselves, like I said, as well as our kids, in building a harmonious family. So again, thank you, Jean, for coming. And I hope you and your family enjoy the holiday. And I hope everyone here enjoys the Christmas holiday, and stay safe and stay warm. It's cold in so many places. I don't know about where you are, if it's that cold as it is here.
It is.
But-
It is. I'm in
Okay.
Toronto, so I'm up north.
Oh, yeah.
And it's only going to get colder. Apparently, we have got
Colder,
ice and rain
yes.
tomorrow.
Yeah, so just stay warm and enjoy the season. And we shall come back again on Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And we have another Jean who will also be giving us an update of how she's been doing, her own project, and how long she has come with doing that. So thank you so much, Jean, for helping us and for building families, really, because it is what we need to do as women. We need to do also as humans to really help us and make our world a better place. So thank you all.
Zita?
Yeah.
Zita,
for
yeah.
coming.
If-
Yes.
If I may ask, actually, I lied.
Yeah.
I have one more link to send, which is just
Okay.
nothing but a feedback for me. So for those of you who want to
Okay.
give me feedback on the presentation, I'd really read your points. I'll read how it helped you. So if you don't mind, I'll put that in. It's a Google form, and it shouldn't take you more than like put that in here.
Great.
For family stress to best. There you go. And I'll just send you the link to the disc workshop. That's the last one.
Okay.
So if you just give me a minute while I fetch that link.
Mhm.
If all of y'all have a minute, Kitty, if you just fill out the form while the presentation is fresh, I would really appreciate it. Awesome. And this is my final link. And that's to the workshop if anybody wants to take it further. Else, I've given you like for easy days, just having a call. And please, I would love your feedback. So
All right. So let's all support Jean and give her feedback. Those feedbacks are very critical in what
is.
she does. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. And thank you all. And if no one else has any comment or questions, I want to say thank you all. And we also thank the podcast. This podcast is made possible through the Ability Podcast in collaboration with Transform You Network and PAC. So we're grateful for the opportunity they have given us each time to reach our audience through this means. So we are grateful and we wish them the best and a happy Merry Christmas, everybody, and Happy New Year. Thank you all.
Awesome.
Thanks, Jean.
Merry Christmas,
Bye,
everybody.
everyone.
Happy holidays.
Thank you. Happy holidays.